Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of the Stocks iOS SwiftUI tutorial. And in this part, we're going to be going over how to get the API working and getting our stock quotes and stuff. So first, I want you to go to this website. So we're going to, here, let me just log out real quick. So here we're gonna go to this website called FinHub. It has a pretty nice free stock API. And it's gonna have the 3 things that we need. Searching for stock symbols, getting us quotes, and getting us historical data so we can populate our charts. Alright, on the website, let's click get a free API key. And I've already created an account, but you can just sign up. So I'm gonna log in first. Alright, and this should give you an API key right here. I recommend you use your own key because my key, if everyone uses my key, you're gonna have issues with the code since there's a limited amount of quotas that can be used every day for my API key. Alright, so let's just copy this key real quick. And I want you guys to go to the documentation page. This page gives you all of the REST API methods that you can use in order to get data. So let's look at the stock price quote, which I'm just going to walk you through first. So it says get real-time quote data for US stocks, and real-time stock data for international markets are also supported, but this requires I think we have to pay for this. So let's just do a test run. All right, so I'm going to go to Chrome. Here, I want you to download this Chrome extension called JSON Viewer Pro because it really helps with looking at JSON. Alright, so we've copied our API key before, and I'm just gonna, we're gonna go to the documentation. We're gonna look at what it wants. Alright, so this is what it wants. Let me get the URL out. So let's go back to Chrome. Let's see. Alright, I'm just gonna walk you through this URL real quick. This is gonna be on the FinHub domain, as it told us in the documentation. We're gonna do /API/v1 quote. This means that we're gonna hit the quote, this quote method right here, as it tells us over here in the examples. And we're gonna have a symbol of, here we can put in whatever we want. In this case, I'm using Apple, so we wanna search for the Apple stock. And we need this ampersand. Token is equal to our API key. So if I take off the token, we're not gonna be able to use the API. So here, let me go back, press enter. And it gives us a few things. So let's look at the documentation and see what the response is. So it tells us this is what the response should look like, and that's what we got. C is equal to current price, D is equal to change, DP is percent change, H is high of day, low of day, open price of day, and previous close of day. So I'm pretty sure we're only going to be using current price and percent change from this API call. Alright, so now that you know how it works. Actually, I want to show you what the JSON Viewer Pro does. If I just use this URL in Safari, it gives me this string JSON, which is pretty hard to read. But when we put it in Chrome with the extension, the JSON Viewer Pro extension, I'll be linking this in the description as well. We get this really nice looking UI with collapsible curly brackets, and we can also do some things like copying the path or the value, and that's going to be really helpful when we start getting into the coding. So let's switch back to Xcode. Just a refresher on what we have so far on the app. We have all the UI complete, and right now we're going to populate this data with we're going to populate this user interface with real data from the FinHub API. So let's get started. So inside finance docs, the root folder, I want you to create a new file or a group, and we're going to call it requests. I want to be able to separate out the API request, the business logic of the app, and the views. So we've already completed the views or the UI of the app. Now we're going to write the backend kind of the app that contacts the backend. And in part 4, we're going to be going over the middle, what I would call the view model, what usually we call in iOS and SwiftUI. In this MVVM, model view model architecture, we call the model, we separate the model with the view and through the view model. And what we're going to be creating right now is the model, which gets all the data, but it doesn't do anything with the data. It just gets the data, and it doesn't contact the user interface whatsoever. So inside the request, let's create a new Swift file called API request. And we want to create a class called API request inside this file. So here we need an instance variable. So this static let instance just says that this this object that we're creating from the class is going to be accessible to the same exact as the same exact object in every file whenever we call this instance. So in content view, if we make a on appear, this means whenever this view appears, which is our root view or the content view, we're gonna run some code. Let's just say API request dot instance, and now we have access to every single one of the functions that we're gonna create inside of here. Inside our API request, I want to create a few variables for our API. First, we need our URL, which is going to be this. I'll put it in the description as well, so you don't have to copy it down or type the whole thing down. Oops, I have a typo right here, private. All right, so next, we're gonna need the token. And here we're gonna say, and token is equal to, let me copy my token real quick. All right, so just to explain why we're using this and token is equal to, the reason is because we want to concatenate this string after all of our requests. So we don't have to write our request like HTTP, FinHub, blah, blah, quote, and we have our and token equals, and then we have to concatenate this only token, since this doesn't change in all of our requests. All right, so now we have these two done. Let's make our first function. Let's get our symbol quote first. Public func. We need to make sure that we have the keyword public in front of our function, because we need to be able to call this in another place. Symbol string. So it's going to take in a symbol, which is of type string. And here it's going to be, might be a little new for beginners right here, this syntax. So this is I'm going to write this out first. Actually, we haven't written this out yet. Sorry, let's just, we're going to print this out just for now. We're going to go over that after we finish getting the data. All right, so let's just make our query. It's going to be of type string, and we're going to say quote, question mark, symbol is equal to, and now if we do that, this lets us write code inside. This is Swift code. We're not in a string anymore. So we can insert the symbol in here. Great. So now I want to create the URL. We need to create it like this using a string. We're going to use the URL that we created from here. So this is a URL inside of this function, and this is the global URL inside this class. URL plus query plus token. All right, so if let URL is equal to URL, this just makes sure that we actually have the URL, because this is going to create a Swift URL, and if that fails, then we'll deal with that. Like we won't touch the URL. We won't write any of the code inside these curly braces. Otherwise, it'll fail. So here we're gonna have to use something called URL session, and we're gonna just create a task first. It's URL session dot shared dot data task. Which one do we need? We just want the first one with URL, or actually no, we want the data completion handler with completion handler. This one, yes. So we're gonna use the URL we just made sure right here, if let URL is equal to URL. And right here, I want you to press enter, and that should give you a nice completion handler. In here, what a completion handler is after this function is called, it's gonna return some data, and it's gonna return these three things: the data, the URL response, and an error. And all three of these are optional, so we're gonna have to do some error handling just in case something goes wrong on the backend. So I'm just gonna name these data response and error. Now we're gonna say if let error is equal to error. So if we have an error here, print error getting quote, and we're gonna do the same thing we just did, concatenation error, and we're gonna return out of this entire function. So we're not gonna run anything else. If there's an error, we're just gonna give up. So next, we're gonna guard let quote data is equal to data. Else, what we're saying here is we're gonna make sure that we actually have data, because remember it was an optional, meaning it could come back as nil or null. The API could just return nothing. So we're gonna have to print. We're gonna print symbol. Whoops, what did I do? My bad. Print symbol search data not valid. So this is just saying when I was testing, the most common time that it's actually occurred was when say maybe you were trying to search for Apple, and then you accidentally searched for I don't know, Apple with like that or something. Like there's actually no quote, there's no stock with this quote, and it would just fail. So here we're gonna return let returned quote is equal to, right here we're gonna do some let's go back to the Chrome tab here. I want to show you what how we're gonna decode this data. So in the Safari tab, I showed you guys without the JSON viewer, we had this this JSON object, and Swift, it's not easy for it to read. It reads it as a string, so we have to be able to decode this into an object that we can work with. So we're not gonna do anything with this yet. We're gonna have some errors, which is fine. I want you to let's see, we're gonna go to helpers, and I want you to create a new file called JSON decoders. Oops. And it's gonna be a Swift file. JSON decoders. Nice. All right. So inside this, let's first do our quote. We're gonna use a struct in this case, decodable. It has to what's it called? It has to be of a type of decodable, the struct, because otherwise we can't use it as a JSON decoder when we decode our data later. So all we do here is we just let it know everything that we have here. I'm gonna copy this for now, and we're gonna comment this out. Okay, so first let C, since this is our first thing inside of this object, so we're gonna look at this entire object. Let C is of type double. Okay. Let D is also of type double. That's the second one. Next is let DP is of double. Technically, you don't need all of these since we're not using all of them, but I'm just gonna do it right now just in case you guys want to mess with the UI and then just add all this data in later. So double, let O, double, and let PC double, let T double. Why is it not working. Okay, it's working now. Nice. So let's go back to API requests, and here now we can do what we were doing before. We can decode this JSON data here. Say try, make sure, because this can fail. So we have to try it, decode from quote dot self. So this is the syntax for JSON decoding in Swift quote data. All right, great. And here I just want to print the returned quote. Later we're gonna use a completion handler, what I was showing you before the syntax, and we're gonna be able to get the data out of it. So like kind of like a return statement. And we need to do task.return, or sorry, task.resume right here. So here we have to do it after this entire block. Otherwise it won't work. And let's make sure that it's, we're gonna delete this later, but right now I just wanna call it just to make sure we get it. So let's try Apple. And let's run it. We should see in the console printing out the data. Yeah, right here. So now we have it inside this quote object and this quote struct, and we can get the stuff inside. It won't be like a string anymore, like what we had before. Okay, let's go back to API request. So we have our first one done. And now we're gonna do the second one. This time we're gonna do searching, okay? So also same thing, but this time it's gonna be called symbol lookup. We need a symbol so we can search it. Actually, we should probably call this search query. Yeah, that's a better name. Okay, let query is equal to, by the way, this query is not part of the search query over here. It's just for the URL. It's of type string, search, q, and let's say search query. Same thing, we're gonna create a new URL, string URL plus query plus token. So now we've created our URL. If let URL is equal to URL, same thing as the last one. Let task is equal to URL session dot shared dot. I'm gonna go a little faster on this one because it's pretty much all the same thing. Let's see, with URL data. Remember, right here we press an enter on this completion handler to change it into this format. Data response error. If let error is equal to error, print error searching for symbols error and return. Guard let JSON data is equal to, whoops, sorry, search data is equal to data, else print symbol search not valid, return. Let returned symbols is equal to try. Okay, let's decode again. So let's go back to our file, JSON decoders. By the way, to search, it's command. Oh wait, I mapped this to something else. So I use Control P or Command P to search for files, but you can change that in the Xcode preferences. All right, down here, let's actually let's check the code first. So it's search and Q. All right, so this is a URL, and let's just look at what it gives us. I don't care about this count, so we're just gonna go through results, okay? Let's see. So this, I really like this extension because it gives us exactly what we need to do. So what this tells me is that this is an entire object, because there's one curly brace. Inside this is the first. Here, even if we copy the path, it just says count. So we can just call it count there, and then this should be result. So here, this one is a little bit better for an example. So this is how we get to description. We go just straight to result. This is the first element in the array. Since this result is an array, then we go to description. All right, so here we're gonna need two structs in this case. So the first struct is going to be, I'm just gonna call it stock symbol search. Also has to be decodable. Okay, let's just add count. It's fine. Maybe you guys can add some functionality in the future using that data too. Stock symbol. We don't have this yet, right? So I'm going to create another struct down here. See this result? It's an array of a bunch of more objects right here. So what we have to create right now is this object right here with the description, display symbol, symbol, and type. I'm gonna call this stock symbol, decodable, and it needs to be hashable too, because we need to iterate through it later. But don't worry about that for now. So description, that was the first thing, right? Here, I'll just copy this just to make sure we don't miss this. Otherwise, it won't work. So the first one is string. Next, what's next? Display symbol. It has to be in this written exactly like this. Otherwise, it won't compile, or it will compile. It just when we decode it, it just we'll just have issues. String and let type is also string. What's failing? Oh yeah, we weren't finished with this. Yep. So let me see. We're gonna do the same thing. JSON decoder. Decode. And here it's stock symbol search dot self, and with the oh whoops, sorry, I added an A right there instead. It's gonna be called search data. Wait, did I mess up? No, sorry. From. There we go. Nice. And now I'm just gonna print, same thing, print out the returned symbols. And let's make sure it works. Let's go back to our content view where we called this get symbol lookup. We're gonna search up Apple. Sorry guys, I ended up forgetting to do task.resume. This is really important, otherwise it won't show up. So we do it after this curly brace, task.resume, and let's run it again. All right, there we go. We got all of our stuff. I'm just going to look through it. All right, we searched for Apple. Oh, maybe that wasn't a very good search query. I don't know why Apple isn't showing up. But our API is definitely working, and we're contacting the server, so that's an important thing for now. And let's finish off with the last API key, the last request that we need to get. Function get candles. Okay, so this one is the most complicated one. This is where we're getting the data for everything. So this is an example of a stock symbol for Apple. This just gets us like historical data from a certain time frame, and we can check that in our API. Sorry, I was looking up something else. Let's see, where was it? Stock price, yeah, I think it's candles right here. All right, so the resolution, we're supposed to use these time frames. So what I did was I just used from and to using the Unix timestamps, and I'll show you how to get that as well, since it's pretty important for making other apps. So let's get started. First, I want to start by setting the dates. Let start date, end date. Yeah, let's do end date first. End date is equal to, I want to change this into an integer because that's what the API takes. Date dot time interval since 1970. That gives me the Unix date value. Then we do let start date is equal to int calendar. This is the calendar API from Apple. Dot current dot date by adding dot hour value. We're gonna go negative because we want to go back by the start date. Hour length to date. And here we're gonna have a lot of errors because we have some optional stuff that we have to work through. So right here we're gonna have oh wait, sorry, this hour length. I forgot to put it in this hour date. Hour length is a type integer. And right now I'm recording this on a Sunday and the stock market is not open. So we might have to change this for now. So if it doesn't run, I would change this to day just for now. Just so we can make sure that works. But ideally, I wanted our stocks app to be able to get you the data from like 12 hours or so. I think I did 12 hours before. And no, I did 8 hours, sorry. So 8 hours, and right now, obviously 8 hours ago was Saturday, but you guys can fix that by yourselves after you finish learning and work out the weekends and have it maybe just show up the stuff on Friday. So you have to do a check whether if it's Saturday or Sunday and then go back to the previous weekday. All right, so let's see, what's the issue? Okay. Int. Should add another parentheses just to make sure. Huh? Oh, okay. So right here, this is an optional, so we need to set it as a time interval since 1970. Otherwise, we just set the date to time interval since. So these two would be the same, just in case. Otherwise, it wouldn't work because the data type wouldn't match. All right, so here let query is equal to stock/candle. I got this from the documentation, straight from the documentation. Symbol is equal to our string concatenation again. Symbol, I spelled symbol wrong up here. Symbol and resolution is equal to 5, and from start date and to end date. Let URL is equal to URL. Same thing. URL plus query plus token. Nice. If let URL is equal to URL, let task, this is all the same thing. I'm just gonna copy our code from before since we don't really want to walk through the same exact thing over and over again. There's just some things we have to change. Error getting quotes, getting candles. Error candle data not valid. And here we need to remake the JSON decoder. And I'm not gonna walk you through getting it from the Chrome extension. I'm just gonna write it out. So it's struct candles decodable. Let's see, it's equal to double. And yeah, that's it. Let's go back to API request. here we need to change this to candles. I want to call this returned candles. Returned candles. Yeah, it looks good to me. Let's go to our content view and try running this. Get candles. Our length, I'm just gonna say 12 or 8. Let's just say 8. And this isn't actually an hour. This is gonna be 8 days in this case, since otherwise I won't be getting any data. Yeah, there we go. We got a lot of data. And this, we can go to our mock data. It's very similar to our data over here. And then we can populate it really easily. The final thing that we have to go over is our completion handlers in here. Since I do want to, this is going to be like pretty important for other projects. So when you're working with APIs, usually you want to have a completion handler so that the user won't just be like hanging out there waiting for a task to complete, like getting data from your backend, in this case our API. Maybe you want like a loading indicator, which we won't be using in this project, but I just want to show you a cool way that you'll be able to do it. First, we need to make a handler at escaping. And we're going to open this up with parentheses. I want you to do an underscore returned symbols stock. It's going to be of type stock symbol search. And right outside here, still within the outside parentheses, you do a return and that. So what this says is we have to have, we're basically creating our own completion handler like from this. So whenever we call this function, we can have like some data returned. And if you want to add a loading indicator or something, I would just make like a loading. You can check whenever the loading comes back, basically. So here, instead of printing it, we'll just do handler returned quote, or sorry, returned. Oh wait, it's returned quote. I'm doing the wrong one. Sorry. Returned quote, and this one will be just normal quote. Sorry about that. Let's see. Now we're gonna go to content view, and I want to run this. API request dot instance dot get candles. Oops, we're not getting candles. We're getting the quote. All right, so here, if we press enter, it gives us a return quote here, and then we can do our data, or we can do whatever we want with this. And I just think it's a lot more cleaner, and it's not too hard to implement. So let's run it, and we should have the same thing. Yep, we got the same exact data. It's just now we can pass this data around. So now if we wanted to, we could just use this and just show it up on our views. But there's a better way to do it, and we'll be showing you that, or I'll be showing you that in the next video. All right, so let's go back to our API request. I want to keep on doing this for the other two functions. Handler at escaping, returned symbol, returned lookup, and it's gonna be a type. What did I call it? Stock symbol search. And it needs to have a return. Make sure it works. Yep. And instead of printing, we're gonna do a handler returned symbols. Finally, over here, when we get our candles, we're going to say handler at escaping returned candles. Down here, all we do is pass the handler here and then our returned candles. All right, content view. Let's run this, all of these. Oh, actually, let's just type them out. .instance .get lookup print returned lookup API request .instance .get candles Nice. It should print everything out now. That was the first one, second one, and third one. Great, so we have all of our API calls working, and from this location, API request, I'm just going to delete this last block for the onAppear, since we're not going to be having the model touch the view in any way. And we'll be finishing off this app in the next part, where we'll be going over the view models. So please stay tuned, and thanks for watching this tutorial.